All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I drove here from Tampa this morning, so I live in Tampa, Southwest Coast as well, about 2 miles from the beach, and love living here in Florida. I travel around the country and look at all the bad weather, and it's really nice to be home and presenting at one of Florida's wonder incomes. So, very excited to be here. Before I start, the first question, how many entrepreneurs in the room? Entrepreneurs? Okay, and how many startups? Okay, so about half of them startups. The reason I asked that question is starting a business is really, really hard. So if you've ever started a business, it sucks, right? To be honest. And for all the glamour and all the stuff you see on TV, on Shark Tank and everything, starting a business sucks. It's lonely, it's difficult, it's got a lot of pain, right? So I don't know why people do it, but if you do it, like I'm doing it, I have a story for you. And the story kind of tells why I started this business. So in 2008, I graduated from St. Pete College. It's in Clearwater. And like every other college graduate, I thought I'm going to go change the world, right? So I was working for Tech Data, again, Florida company, about $30 billion revenue, one of the Fortune 500 companies. I quit my job, I graduated with a degree, and decided to go change the world. So I started my first business. I imported and exported handbags, so I actually went and hired 30 women in India, taught them how to make handbags, even though I'd never made a handbag, learned how to do it, hired people, got the handbags made, and started selling them. So this was 2010. Back in the US, selling handbags up and down the West Coast. So Naples, Fort Myers, all the beaches up and down the West Coast. They're the cross-shoulder bags. They're really popular in the summer. Sold them in the beach stores. The product was amazing. Some of the bags had like 100 hand-sewn mirrors on them. Amazing work, amazing story, helping 30 families in India, right? But fast forward to 2014, if you have a business that's not made a profit in 4 years, the IRS considers it a hobby, and you have to close it at that point, right? So I hit a brick wall, and came back to my senses that I wasn't going to change the world alone. And starting a business was really painful and hard. So I closed the business down, went to work for corporate America, worked for Nielsen, another local Florida company. In 7 years, became vice president for global innovation, learned a lot more skills, became a little bit more worldly. But I wanted to go back and fix that first business's mistakes. I wanted to go fix the problems that I had in the first business, right? And by now I had more resources, I had more training, I had a bigger network of people. And I went and looked at the notes I'd written down when I'd closed the business. The first thing that struck me was that within months of closing the business, I saw all these resources locally available for me that I didn't know existed. Because the reason I asked you if you're a startup, you realize this, you've got blinders on. If you're a startup, you just want to make payroll. You want to pay your employees, you want to talk to your customers, you want to ship your products. You do that every single day, and people tell you if you work really hard at it, you're going to be successful. So you don't do all these other things that people do, right? Like for example, in Tampa, we had like 30 events in 20 days for entrepreneurs and startups. A true startup is in none of those events because they're actually trying to they're trying to pay their bills. They're trying to make their business work, right? So the problem was not that resources didn't exist locally. As a startup, you're not investing time in going and meeting people and talking to people. You're working on your business. And so I wanted to create a platform where you could be that mother who's got a child, who has to put the child to bed at night, cannot make it to the meetup, but still have access to your local community. So I built this platform. And what it does essentially is it connects you to your local community and allows people around you to help you virtually without having to make it to every single event. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this product. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to skip through some steps and I'll just go. I'll talk about, so what we did is we basically built a mobile platform which connects people in the local community with investors, entrepreneurs, social workers or community developers, people who can actually help you with your business without having to actually go to this event. And so what we found is that for people who are really struggling to make their business work, now they have a way to connect. And if you think about it, like I did last night, I went to bed at 2 a.m. putting a one-pager together because somebody in another city said, hey, we'd love to get a one-pager because we think we might have some potential clients. I was working at 2 a.m. Almost every single startup is working at 2 a.m., right? And at that point, when you have a question, you want help then. You don't want help like a week from now with a mentor because that's the first opening that the mentor has, right? So how do you crowdsource mentorship within your local community so that your peers can actually jump in and say, oh, we've had the same problem and we can help you. And so we launched, so I quit my job in June of last year. I launched this platform, and since then we've had about 3,000 startups on our platform in the US. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about how we make money. The app is free, so the startup already doesn't have any money, so we're not going to charge the startup to also now get help. So the app is 100% free. I think everybody has a card on their desk. If not, I don't know where it ended up, where the stack ended up, but I think here, I'll just hand them out here. So it has a QR code on the back. If you could take one and just pass it down. And it connects you with your local community. I have some amazing stories that have happened since we launched. So for example, this woman in New York, and it's all geo-fed, so it's local to the community you're in. You will see when you log in that it's like so we started with global, then we brought it to national. Now it's 2,000 miles around you. As we keep growing, the radius will shrink. So you can, eventually it'll get to somewhere like 150 miles, where you can actually get advice within 150 miles of you. But there are some brilliant stories already. For example, this woman in New York City got into New York Fashion Week and wanted somebody to help because she didn't expect to get into Fashion Week. She was just a startup. She's like, oh my God, I just got in. She sent a snapshot of the ticket and said, can anybody help fund us to get to the Fashion Week actually and showcase our products? Another investor on the platform, Saratoga Investments, jumped in and said, oh, we love this idea, we'll definitely help you. They were also from New York. And said, we'd love to help you get to the Fashion Week. Something like this could not have happened outside the platform, because if you go to Google and search for investors, guess what? Nobody's going to call you back, right? Several stories like this. We were at CES in Las Vegas, the largest electronic show in the world. And there were startups there looking for investors and investors looking for startups. And we actually made a connection with two people who had booths next to each other, but did not know that one needed investment and the other one was the investor. The first person asked a question on the app, and the second person responded, and they realized they were actually booths next to each other, right? That's because in so much noise around us today, it's hard to focus on the things that matter, right? So I'll pause. I'll just do one more slide around how we make money, and then I'll stop and open up for questions. The way we make money is we actually work with counties, city governments, people who actually have the money, and also have a mandate to help entrepreneurship, right? So we work with city governments, we work with incubators, accelerators, universities. Our biggest client is the city of Denver. So in Denver, our app is mandatory for any entrepreneur who wants to come into their comments and get help from their resources. They have to have the app. But the app instead, but the incentive to have the app is that it does everything for them. So it will book your co-working space. It'll show you all the events they have, so you can actually register to go to their events. You can watch any of their events live within the app. You can ask any questions from any of their mentors in real time. All the resources they have for startups are also within the app. So you can just look within the app, and all the resources that they offer are within the app, plus a knowledge library that they have put together with all the content from experts. So like a virtual incubator for everything for the city of Denver. So we did Denver, now we're onboarding St. Paul, Minneapolis, we've got Tallahassee in the works. So we're a 7-month-old startup. We're starting to aggressively go after all these little pockets where people have the mandate to help with entrepreneurship. And so business model, basically we're trying to hit $100,000 in the first year. It costs $5,000 for the platform. We also have like other prices if there are like individuals who want to do private networks. What we did is, people after events usually used to come and tell me, we love this idea, we want to do the same thing. So we actually white label our app, and so anybody can make our app their app without having to build an app. So we white label the app for anybody who's trying to network, like a local nonprofit or a local school. So we host 3 different schools on our platform. We also host like pitch competitions. People basically who don't want to build a $100,000 app can use our app as a white label and do their networking and connections. So that's startup space. Would love to answer any questions or connect with you guys offline.
Okay, thank you very much. So what can the community do for you? Just
So what the biggest thing you guys can do first is to download the app and answer questions, ask questions, help your local community. That's number one. Encourage all of you to do that. There's no hidden fees. There's nothing that you can pay for, literally nothing you can pay for within the app. That's the first biggest thing. Second thing, if you're part of an incubator, accelerator, if you're a city official, would love to talk to you about how we can help the city further entrepreneurship. And I can show you like the use case we have in Denver. We're actually doing a case study with them for Kaufman to show how we are helping in entrepreneurship. And also there's a 1 Million Cups. The Columbus 1 Million Cups chapter is on our app. They actually use our app to run their 1 Million Cups, Columbus. And Georgia is also looking at it, South Atlanta. So that's the biggest thing you guys can do to help us.
Awesome. Super exciting. I'm very excited for you and everything that you can offer everybody.
Thank you.
What my question is, it sounds like you have lots of separate universes. So this becomes a platform for existing companies or groups and stuff like that. Are they linkable? Is there a way that can be shared data between Denver and Minneapolis and Naples, etc.?
Great question. So we have two kinds of networks. The public network, nobody owns. And so if you go right now into the app and look for accelerators, you'll find the Naples Accelerator in the resources section of the app. So that's public. That's us doing a free service for the community. We actually call and vet every single resource. The way you link them is you have to actually get invited into one of these private networks. So we're hoping that somebody here in Naples picks up the private network, and then they would offer all the services for the city of Naples or for Collier County out. So that would be the design. And that's how the private and public get linked. The private entities already do this today, but there isn't a virtual presence. In fact, we looked at our competition, none of our competition offer even an app. So the link is between when a private community that already exists physically offers their services as part of the app, then you connect your public app, which we have, which anybody can join, with the private network, and that's local and meaningful. Like, if you're connected to Denver, it's not going to be very meaningful for you, right? Because you do business locally. So that's why it has to be somebody local. Now, we can create a network, we can create any kind of network. So we can create a network where all the city governments are connected nationally, but for a local entrepreneur, you want to be plugged into your community. Does that make sense?
Yes, I want to download your app, and I noticed that it's only an iOS app. When are you going to go?
No, it's Android as well. I'm sorry, I don't know.
It doesn't say that on the store. It says the app is only for iOS.
I don't know what store you look. It's Android too, so you can just search for you just search for startup space in Android. It's I think sometimes we use a one link, and the one link it looks at your previous history and it directs you to one store or another. So some users automatically it goes to the app store versus going to the Android. So we use a one link to make it efficient, but sometimes it works counterproductive.
So the premise is heavily local entrepreneurs. What if somebody has something that's regionally valuable or nationally valuable? Is there a way that this is beneficial for them as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can actually go into your profile and change your geolocation within your profile. So for, let's say for the week, you're going to work out of Austin. You can go to your profile, change your location to Austin, and you can get all the resources for entrepreneurship within Austin just by changing your profile to Austin. Yeah, so you can do that. But at the end of the day, we're always trying to force people to think local and work local, because that's how all my businesses have been local. So it's geofenced within 150 miles of the city you're in. And the geofence is dynamic, so it pulls directly from your profile. Whatever you set in your profile, within 150 miles of that, all your resources will automatically show. So you can travel around the world. We're actually in 35 countries, so you can go to other parts of the world and still work as an entrepreneur.
Any other questions before we wrap up? One more? Definitely interested?
So is this a platform for people that offer these kind of businesses, or like not just mentorship, but is this like, so we have someone here who does organization and various services?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have all kinds of networks within our app. We have nonprofits, individuals who created their own network. We've had people who want to do like Startup Week, so they just went and created a Startup Week network. You can create whatever network you want. If it's an individual, it's $1,200 a year, so $100 a month. If it's a city government or if it's an entity, it's $5,000 a year, or it's $450 a month. So if you're an individual, you're like, you know what, I've always wanted an app for my business. I want to connect all my clients. I want to put all my resources in one place. I've got a ton of content I've created over time. I want to put it all in one place. Tell them they can all go ask questions 24/7 and get access to me. You don't have to go build an app, because this will be that app for them.
So awesome, it's a platform for them to work from and within.
Yep.
Is it also a way for them to promote themselves?
Yes, so there is, so I think, I don't know if I have it here, $600. For $600 a year, so $50 a month, we will promote you as an entrepreneur within our platform. So you'll have eyeballs, and we have a specific place for that. We don't do advertising, we only tell stories. So I have a content writer who's got a master's in English, she only tells stories. So if you come and say, hey, I'd like to advertise my business, we'll actually find out your story, what actually got, because people do business because they want to know why you care, right? So when you see my presentation, I first told you why I cared. It was a business that I failed in, and that's why I started this. So when you knew that I cared, you will care. So we tell stories. So if you come and say you want to advertise, we'll tell your story on the platform, and so people will want to click and find out more about you. And so yes, for $600 a year, we'll tell your story.
Well, thank you very much. Ashley, can you please come up and close out the meeting? Great job as usual.
So I wanted to thank Angelic Desserts Bakery, Cafe and Bakery, and TLHA Enterprises for providing the coffee. And next month will be Room Dig, an app and marketplace exclusively for student housing, roommates, and the social scene, and Proper Channel, a collaborative tool that helps people create, share, and use process maps and flowcharts to maneuver their way through any task. So please bring your friends, apply, present, and share the work.